Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Instant Analysis here in the KXAN Live studios. I'm Billy Gates, and like our open screen said, that there was a wild game there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta in the Peach Bowl. Texas wins in double overtime, 39-31 over Arizona State to advance to the college football playoff semifinals in about 10 days at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. So they'll be coming back to Texas, so good for them. And here to talk about it is the guy. This is actually his last show, his last ride. It's Jonathan Thomas, KXAN sports reporter, formerly, I guess now. Jonathan, thanks so much for coming by.
For one more day.
Yeah, for one more day. Thanks for coming by to hang out and chat about this game. I mean, there were several times in this game where you and I both looked at each other and we're like, what is happening? Mm-hmm. Like, what on earth is going on? Texas led at one point 24-8 with about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then the Arizona State Sun Devils and Cam Skattebo went bonkers. I mean, this was something that if Arizona State had pulled this off, there would have been movies made about this for years.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. From an Arizona State perspective, real quick, this was the kind of like game that they've had this season where, this year they were picked to finish dead last in the conference. They, won a lot of games this year that a lot of people, and I'll even say it myself, ASU grad here, by the way, so I can talk about my team this way. Didn't think that they would.
I was going to get to that eventually, but you did.
Yeah, no, for real. I didn't think they would win a lot of the games they did this year. And for them to get a bye and all of that, win the Big 12 championship, that was incredible enough. And they're down 24-8 in the fourth quarter. And for them to, have it go to 2 overtimes, I mean, it's pretty incredible, the kind of season they've had. They're just a team that just does not quit. Talk about Skattebo. He was named the offensive MVP of the game despite the Sun Devil losing to the Longhorns. And here's why. 143 yards on 30 carries, 2 touchdowns. He threw for a touchdown as well. And he had 99 yards receiving. So just one shy of 100 yards receiving as well. In addition to his 143 yards rushing. So he was just a freak. And it was Texas... It took everybody to try to contain him. You know what I mean? He was definitely giving them fits. Texas has been an outstanding defense this year. That didn't stop today. They just had quite the matchup there with Skattebo. But hey, they held on. Sark said after the game that it wasn't their best game today. He knows that. I think UT fans out there know it wasn't their best game today either. But they got the win, and now they're one of 4 teams standing, just like they were last year.
Yeah, and I mean it's that mentality, like it's like the March Madness tournament, right? I mean you have to survive and you have to advance, and I mean Steve Sarkisian talked about that in the postgame press conference. In fact, he alluded to March Madness a bunch when he was talking about this kind of tournament style play. And I'm looking at the scoring summary here. I kind of thought the game was in the bag at the 10-17 mark. Quinn Ewers rushes or kind of scrambles around for a 5-yard touchdown to put Texas up 24-8 with 10-17 left in the game. And then Skattebo throws his miracle halfback pass on 4th and 15 or something like that to Malik McClain. 6:31 left, like, okay, they make 2-point conversion, so they're within 8. And then Ewers throws an interception, and then Arizona State marches it down the field. Skattebo scores again, his first rushing touchdown of the game, after having that pretty nice game so up to that point. Then it's tied up with another 2-point conversion that he scored. Texas misses 2 field goals. Bert Auburn pushes one right and then pulls one left. The one left from 48 yards hits the upright as time expires. So the game goes to overtime. Skattebo scores again for Arizona State. to give them that first touchdown of the overtime period. And then Texas, they had their own fourth down play. Jonathan, like we watched that and like our mouths were just on the floor when it happened. Like you could see the moment Golden came open behind the Arizona State defensive backs, and you knew that's where Quinn was going. During the post-game press conference, Sarkisian said Ewers made an adjustment at the line, changed the protection to a max protection, and then that allowed Golden to get behind the defenders there. I mean, that's stuff that the usual person doesn't see until someone's got to explain it to him. I mean, that just shows you how good Quinn Ewers is when it comes to diagnosing what the defense is doing.
Yeah, and it shows just how good, Ewers is at adjusting too. I mean, because we've seen him do this a lot this year, where he sees something at the line of scrimmage, he tells either DeAndre Moore, because we've seen it with him, tells DeAndre Moore, or in this case, Matt Golden, hey, I see something, let's change this. And, they adjust and it works out well. And, of course, this was, as you said, he changed the protection on that play. And that was something, ASU sent the house. And I had a feeling if they were going to do that, they were going to get beat over the top. And that was money. It was such an easy throw for Quinn Ewers to make. Classic pitch and catch between him and Matt Golden right there. And how about even though in overtime, they fall behind in overtime, but then they score to tie the game up. And then the very first play of the second overtime, they score right away. Ewers finds Gunnar Helm. I mean, that was kind of when, you could just tell Texas kind of hit the turbo button there a little bit and said, all right, let's make sure we put these guys to bed here. And after they scored that touchdown so easily, I kind of realized then that, ASU probably didn't have the firepower necessary to beat Texas today.
Yeah, and I mean, if they didn't have the firepower, they had a lot to throw at him, man.
They did. No,
like that game that Scottaboo had is a legendary type game.
Yeah.
Leading, like you said earlier, the 143 rushing yards, leading the team in receptions and receiving yards, throwing a 42-yard touchdown pass. That's the kind of stuff that gets you like a statue out in front of the stadium if your team wins. I mean, obviously, and he was throwing up on the sideline. Like he was like physically sick on the sideline throughout that second half, and still just gutted it out and played like it's hats off to him. I mean, that's just one heck of a performance from him. But in the end, Texas prevailed. And I just want to get one thing here. I usually don't do this, but we have a comment in our Facebook stream here that says Ewers is the weak link of the team, and that's completely false, and that is just a terrible opinion for not only the things that we just mentioned.
Okay, Bill.
That
Spicy today.
I am feeling spicy because this has been happening all season, and he's a great quarterback. Yet, does he have flaws? Sure, of course he has flaws. We all do, but he doesn't throw a deep ball very well. That's fine. You don't have to. In Steve Sarkisian's offense, you can throw your intermediate routes, you can throw your short routes, you can be pinpoint accurate. Ewers is terrific at the short and intermediate passing game. He's not good throwing it down the field, fine. But all the things he does, like what we were saying earlier, he changes protection at the line, he audibles to the correct plays. He audibled into 2 touchdowns against Clemson, both rushing plays that Texas ripped off for long rushes that scored. He changed the play at the line of scrimmage to get to that play. The weak link of the team doesn't do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just that he's been taking a beating by people all season because they want to see the Manning kid, who's a great quarterback. I have nothing against Arch Manning. But if he were ready, Sarkisian would have put him in. You know what I mean?
For sure. And the thing that Quinn Ewers has, and this is what I've said, when it comes to the Quinn and Arch thing, is that Quinn Ewers has the experience and he has the command of the offense. And it shows in those plays that you referenced and that we discussed earlier as well. It's that, he knows exactly what he's supposed to do, in different situations. So you when you combine his command of the offense plus just his experience overall playing college football, I think that's why you got to stick with Quinn Ewers. That's why you don't go away from him unless you just absolutely have to. And I think that's something that I feel like people need to start taking into more consideration when having these discussions. Is Quinn Ewers has the command of the offense. Arch Manning does not yet. Yet. He will. Of course he will, but not right now. Yeah. This has got to be, if they're going to win a national championship, Quinn Ewers has to be the guy under center right now. It's that simple. Yeah. In my humble opinion.
I agree with you 100%. Ewers finishes 20 of 30 passing for 322 yards, 3 touchdowns. The interception late was a bad throw. It was. There's no doubt about that.
That's one of those things.
And then Arizona State made him pay with the late touchdown. Yeah,
for sure. And that's one of those things. That's the one thing though with Quinn Ewers is there's some times where he will make an amazing throw, and there's times where he makes some throws and makes some decisions in general where you're just like scratching your head. You're like, what were you seeing? Because he could be so great at certain times, and other times it's just not there, and you just go, what were you thinking? And I'm sure Sark and Milwee, I'm sure they they let him know every single time he makes those decisions.
Definitely.
But they were able, it didn't bury him. They were able to come back from that and ultimately get the dub.
Yeah. Just going over some numbers here real quick. Some things that popped out to me. Arizona State ran 97 plays. 97, and Texas only ran 60. I mean, there were some drives. I mean, first drive of the game for Texas, 2 plays, score. Right. Totally cool. Obviously, a good drive is a scoring drive, no matter how many plays it takes. Next drive, 3 and out, punt. Next drive, 13 plays. Kick a field goal, go up 10. Like everything's cool. And then drives of 3, 1, 3, 1 on the safety, 13, 2, 9, 8, 4, then 1 there in overtime. So they didn't have the ball very much, which was crazy because, let's see, Arizona State, they go on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drives of 9 plays or more. That's controlling the ball, and that's keeping the offense off the field. So it's just one of those weird stats. It's like time of possession. It's like it matters until it doesn't. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But it is just one of those things where, Arizona State outgained Texas 510 to 375, but Texas averaged a yard per play more than Arizona State did. So it's one of those things where you gotta give some context one way or another.
And you just go to the overtimes too,
right? Yeah,
and just look at the way the team scored in overtime.
Right.
ASU. Yeah. It took them, a while to get in the end zone in the first overtime. Obviously, didn't get in the end zone in the second time, but that overtime drive, that first overtime scoring drive, it took them a while. Meanwhile, Texas, they were able to connect on a deep ball, and then, like I said, the very first play of the second overtime, Ewers found Gunnar Helm for a touchdown. So.
Which was a great pass, by the way. He put that thing right on the money.
Yeah,
hit Helm in stride, and he basically walked into the end zone.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a testament. Just again, Texas, they have so many playmakers, and so when you have like that, that's how you're gonna have some games where it's not gonna take you. You're gonna hit a lot of home runs. Yeah, essentially.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, and Texas could not get their rushing game going, and Sarkisian said part of that was just not having the opportunities to have the ball in order to run, and because they were forced to throw the ball a little bit than they typically do. But yeah, Quintrivion Weisner, 45 yards on 18 carries. That put him over the 1,000-yard mark for the season. So congrats to him. That's always a nice benchmark for a running back to hit. Matthew Golden caught 7 passes for 149 yards. He had a tremendous game. Had a long of 54 and a touchdown. It just kind of seemed like whenever Ewers needed a guy to make a grab, he looked Golden's way.
100%. Yeah, big day
Yeah.
for Matt Golden. And this is the thing about this offense is it can be anybody that, that has a game like that. Isaiah Bond back from injury, it wasn't his day today, at all. But, going forward, it very well could be his day, in the next round. Or it could be Ryan Wingo's day. I mean, they have so much talent, especially a receiver, that you just never know who's going to step up. But more than likely, it will be someone who will step up and be that guy. But yeah, Ewers and Matt Golden definitely showed they had a lot of a rapport that they have built, from spring to now. That it really peaked today, and they needed it. They needed that connection too many times, including on the 2-point conversion too, in overtime.
Now I think people are just trolling me now because we got another Facebook comment that says, "Put Arch in. We won't win any more games with Ewers starting." That's just you don't know that. You have no idea.
I know people. I get it.
If his name was Arch Smith, nobody would. This wouldn't be a thing.
Exactly.
This wouldn't be a thing. Exactly. But he's a Manning. I mean,
you got it. I'm telling you, you want Quinn Ewers to be the quarterback, right? You do not want to throw Arch Manning out there right now.
Not now.
It's gonna be a disaster.
Not unless you absolutely have to.
Right. Exactly. And then the chips fall where they may, but you've got an experienced quarterback. They're winning these games with Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
So it's just enjoy Manning when you see him come in for those special packages.
And he's gonna be the starter next year.
You'll see him next year.
You'll see him next year. You'll see him the year after that. Like if his name was Arch Johnson, this wouldn't be a thing. And he's not even Eli and Peyton's son at all. Like they're his uncles. Like his dad's Cooper Manning, the Manning who didn't get to the NFL.
True, but hey, Grandpa's did.
Yes.
Grandpa's did.
Yeah. Anyway, we could do this all night long, and as much as I might want to. Again, Texas wins in double overtime over Arizona State, 39-31 in the Peach Bowl, the college football playoff quarterfinals. They move on to the college football playoff semifinals, January 10th, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it's the 10th as well.
Yeah, it's the 10th. It's going to be at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. So they're going to come back to Texas and play. And if they win that one, then they play for the national title back at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta on the 20th.
Atlanta's got to become their favorite city.
Clearly. And
so much.
At the time this is being recorded, it's 7:04 Wednesday night. Ohio State is just obliterating Oregon 41-15. So it appears that Quinn Ewers, all of our Facebook commenters' favorite quarterbacks apparently, he's going to play against his old squad because he spent a year at Ohio State before transferring back to Texas. So it appears Texas will take on Ohio State in the CFP semifinals at the Cotton Bowl Classic, barring some kind of crazy comeback that the Oregon Ducks put together. But after watching the first half of that game, I don't foresee that happening.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, what an intriguing and fun matchup that's going to be. Ohio State, Texas. I mean, these are two teams who've been considered. They've been in the top. Definitely been in the top 10 all year. But at the beginning of the year, these were two top 5 teams. These were teams that everyone expected to be at this point, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So we're getting that, and for them to clash. Will Howard, the Ohio State quarterback, was at Kansas State, former Big 12 opponent for Texas.
Yes, sir.
So the Longhorns have a lot of familiarity with him, and there's going to be a lot of fun storylines with this matchup. Two great fan bases, a lot of passion. So this is going to be a fun matchup. If that score holds, it probably will. This is going to be a really fun, I think, semifinal. This is the kind of game that the college football playoff committee was envisioning as we get into these, as we get to the final stages of the season here.
Right, with all the weird seating rules, like that can be that's another conversation for another day. I think that once we get to the semifinals, once all that's sorted out, we'll get the best teams that are going to be playing here at the end. And speaking of semifinals, we have to say, our thoughts and our prayers are going out to the city of New Orleans for what happened early this morning with that truck attack that seems to be some kind of terrorist attack that killed at least 15 folks and injured numerous others. I think up to 30, 35 is the last report. That event postponed the Sugar Bowl that was supposed to be played tonight. Actually, supposed to go on in about 35 minutes or so from the time we're recording this at 7:45. That game is going to be played at 3 p.m. on Thursday now, in order to let the investigators do their thing down at that crime scene of that just horrific attack that happened there. So our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody in New Orleans, everybody affected, and hopefully by tomorrow night, folks can, help kind of put that behind him, and then watch some football, because that's what sports is going to bring us all together, right? I mean, that's what sports does the best. I mean, we've seen it time and time again, where a national tragedy happens. You think of 9/11, you think of the New York Mets and the New York Yankees baseball game where they had the fire departments and the police officers come out and take part in a pregame ceremony. I don't want to compare it to that, but I mean, it's going to have that kind of feel.
Yeah, and specifically with New Orleans, remember the first the Monday Night Football game between the Saints and the Falcons after Katrina shut down the Superdome, for a while. The atmosphere and that everything going on that night. New Orleans has been through so much. I just completely want to echo that sentiment. Our condolences to the family, to the victims' families, and just hopefully that city can rally. But New Orleans is resilient; it will.
Yes, they will. All right, well, we're going to end it there. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Instant Analysis. And somebody else in the Facebook comments is they're trolling me. Anyway, I'm not going to acknowledge it anymore. Thank you so much for watching. For Jonathan Thomas, I'm Billy Gates, and we'll talk to you again very soon.